I'd like to call to order the Town of Fraser's regular meeting on February 2nd, 2020 at 6 p.m. Is it really February? At 6 p.m. Can I please have a roll call?
Katie Fisher,
Andy Miller,
Eileen Waldo,
Brian Cirkvanek.
Cornell Quinn.
Katie Souls.
Philip Vanderneel. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So move. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consent agenda is resolution 2022-0201 for election judges. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with just that one item?
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are at public hearing and possible action. Public hearing to gather community input regarding affordable housing needs and intent to apply community development block grant funds for affordable housing development in Fraser, Colorado. Michael?
Yes, Mayor, trustees.
Yes.
All right, hi, everyone. So the citizen, we have a citizen participation plan. That is one of the requirements along with this public hearing for the grant funding that we're pursuing. So in order for us to meet all the requirements, this is one of those requirements, is to hold a public hearing. So the idea behind this is just provide the community with an opportunity to provide some input regarding any kind of housing challenges they may be having. Honestly, just providing input. So as part of our citizen participation plan, which is attached in the agenda, if we are awarded the funding for Victoria Village, this is what this funding is for just a little bit over $3 million for the purchase of Victoria Village, as we are under contract right now. If we are awarded the funds, then we will also have an additional public hearing to take in community input, and we anticipate having at least one public hearing, so an open house, something of that nature. Really try to get some community feedback on what they're looking for and how we can best address the needs of the community. So that's what this is. This is an opportunity. See if anyone would like to say anything about that.
And then just one point of clarification, I did open the public hearing. Okay. So anybody from the public, let's start here in the audience, would like to speak on affordable housing needs?
I think it's a great plan.
Okay, ma'am, can you step up to the podium, state your name? Yeah, state your name, and then if you live,
Give us your report. Welcome.
and then if you live in the town of Fraser or not, and then we would love to hear yours.
Michelle Seville Lawrence. I do live in the town of Fraser, and I think that affordable housing is amazing and it's very much needed, and I support it 100%.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Anybody else from?
Good job.
Thank you.
Diane Butler, Grand County Economic Development, and I just applaud you for taking this step towards solving some of the issues with workforce and affordable housing. So
Great.
I really don't live in the town of Fraser, but definitely applaud the efforts.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Anyone else from here in this audience? Okay, anyone online, you can digitally raise your hand. Got one. There's Peggy.
Thank you for taking the ball and running with it. I think this is a huge step forward for the entire community. And I really think you're going in the right direction. So thank you definitely for making this acquisition happen.
Great. Thanks, Peggy. We appreciate that. Any other online people want to? Okay, no more digital hands are raised. We need to close the public hearing. So can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Souls, so move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Do you need anything else? That's it? Okay,
Great.
great. I hope we're really excited about this grant. So, hopefully it moves forward. Okay, sorry. We're out discussion and possible action, Fraser Center for the Creative Arts. Is this Steve?
Yeah, it sure is. Getting my props. Turn them this way. And I am going to place one of these at either end. You all have seen this before, but this is just to jog your memory. The material. Let me come over here. For those of you who are online, my name is Steve Fitzgerald. I'm the chair of the Public Arts Committee. And I just gave to the town board 2 representations of the 2018 plan for the Fraser Center for the Arts, which we'll talk about in a minute. Before I go into that, let me introduce, or actually I'll have all of you just quickly introduce yourselves if you haven't already, and how you're connected to this project. Diane?
And then I'm sorry, so that people can hear online, you actually have to go up to the podium. That's why we have you go up to the podium. Sorry.
Diane Butler, Grand County Economic Development, on the board for the Fraser Valley Arts.
My name is Lisa Baird, and I'm on the Fraser PAC committee as well as the secretary treasurer for the Fraser Valley Arts nonprofit.
My name is Callie McDermott. I'm on the PAC and the board for the nonprofit for Fraser Valley Arts.
Michelle Lawrence, and Recreation Director for the Fraser Valley Metropolitan Recreation District. And I'm part of this committee because currently we do all the programming at the church and have a vested interest in the arts.
Thank you.
And just invested a whole bunch of new pottery wheels, if I'm not mistaken. So good on you.
Nice.
Brian Whitman, a member of the Fraser Valley Arts Board, is with us online. Brian, if you just want to wave so everybody can see which one you are, there you go. Thank you. So we're here tonight for a very simple purpose. You've heard us over the last year give you information about the path we've been on with regard to starting an active effort to fundraise to build a Fraser Center for the Arts. In that course of that work over the last year, we completed the swing, if you will, on a second element, which was to scope out what it would take to refurbish and restore the historic church as perhaps an interim step to get to an active center for the creative arts. That was part of the original write-up, the original plan from the document that you have in front of you. And when the Philip and the former town manager asked me to get engaged, that was one of the steps that we needed to complete. So the first thing I'm going to do tonight is take you through that alternative plan, which could either be a stepping stone to the actual full center in the mural park. It could be an alternative, or we could skip it all together. And that's the counsel we would like to seek from you tonight. At the end of the day, we are a bunch of volunteers. We are not elected by the citizens of this town. And we think it's important that as we begin our effort to publicly first fundraise as well as engage with the community on these facilities, that we need to do so with the clear and express blessing, if you will, of this body. So our purpose tonight is to share some information and then have you give us guidance. That guidance may come tonight. You may need some time to talk about it. That's fine. But we're not going to proceed with engaging with the broader community on these facilities until this group has said, go X, go Y, or go Z. Does that make sense? Cool. Great. So let me step back for just a second. I've mentioned the 2018 drawing and the reason why we've done this work around the church. In the last year during the pandemic, we've also created the not-for-profit, as you all know. And we have managed through events and other fundraising to actually take that not-for-profit from no assets to on the order of about $25,000. So it's a good start. And the main important point on all that is we now have established that organization for purposes of going after grants. Secondly, we're going to be using that body, Fraser Valley Arts, to engage on a whole host of other programming events over time. And as we build a reservoir of funds, the programming that happens under that body, all the proceeds would go towards the construction of the center. So that's an important step that has taken place in the last 12 months, largely through the efforts of the people you see sitting here. And Plein Air at Altitude, if you recall, last fall was our major fundraiser. The Mural Fest is also a good part of that. What I want to do now, though, is take you through what we achieved with the help of DAO architecture in terms of the looking at restoring the church. And folks who are online, this might be a little hard for you to see. We do have digital copies of these available. If someone wants to see them, just let us know.
And they're in our packet.
And I believe so.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, good. There was a little trouble earlier today downloading them. So the first representation I have for you here is the exterior elevation as you stand outside looking directly at the church. You see on this side, it's largely as it looks today, but the addition would all be over here on this side. And this is where we would be building 3 studio spaces, as well as an entry gallery. The one major change that would happen to the existing side is that the front performance area or gathering area, the sanctuary, if you will, would be converted into a small performing art space. So live performances could take place there. And then the larger area where the fireplace is would also be refurbished, restored, along with the kitchen. This gives you, there we go, nice job with the camera. It's always fun to drive the Zoom cameras. This gives you a sense of what the common area would look like. This is in the new addition part of the building, and I'll show you a layout in a moment. But to help you visualize this, what you see the people standing in would be a multi-purpose common area surrounded on 3 sides by studios that were very flexible. One would be sort of a dirty studio, think clay, glass blowing, those types of things. The other 2 would be the cleaner arts, if you will. This is a representation of the front sanctuary where performances could take place. We do think that this is essential for the progress of the center, regardless if it's here or across the street. The public wants to see performing arts. When we put these models along with the original ones up during Plein Air at Altitude on Saturday, when hundreds of people came through and we took their comments, over and over we heard again, the first question was, will there be performing arts? And I think it's essential for us in order to establish ourselves as an active choice for our community, but also to raise money that we're going to need that. So we've anticipated that need at a small scale in the historic church.
That room stays pretty much the same, right?
Yeah, turns it around.
It does. The only thing it does is exactly, we turned it around. Katie was part of this work.
Okay.
Because it's sort of ironic. If you would keep the stage or the elevated platform where it is, in order for a person who's in the audience to go to the bathroom, they'd have to walk up on the stage, which we thought would probably be less than desirable.
Yeah, good idea.
Indeed, and for those on the Zoom, the comment was the essential ingredient was to keep the historic character of not only that room, but of the whole church was one of our key principles. What you see here is a rendition of one of those studios that I mentioned. And I'll show you again in a second how they lay out, but you can see how flexible it would be. And we really anticipate being able to rapidly shift to meet the needs of the community. So for example, a lot of young people these days are really into video and design through computers and that sort of thing. They may not be as interested in, say, the clay arts or the fiber arts. And we want to be able to accommodate that and not knowing exactly which direction we want to go. We also took the counsel of Michelle from the rec center, who has a multitude of different needs. So that was part of our design criteria. Now, let's talk a little bit about the layout. And I'm going to actually hold this here so I can see it, because I'm pretty good at doing things upside down, but not great. So this is this is the current church. This is the addition. This would be the refurbished sanctuary, if you will, with, as we talked about, the stage would now be on this end nearest to the street. We would upgrade the flexible room, or the fellowship hall, as we were calling it. But it's really intended to be a multi-purpose room so that any types of community needs that are required could still be accommodated there. We have increased the storage so that tables and chairs could be stored as well. Plan to really improve the kitchen and the bathrooms. And then you get over here to the side of the building that effectively emulates the center that was designed in 2018 and just on a smaller scale, in that we would have 3 studio spaces with big garage doors into this common area. And one of them, in all likelihood, this one would be the clay and dirty arts. These two would be less so and more flexible. And it would be able, between these 3 spaces, the common area and here, to accommodate a whole host of community needs, whether it be artistic, seniors, weddings, bar mitzvahs, you name it. We're trying to make sure that it was able to accommodate them. The other thing that's kind of cool about this that DAO designed in is this entry gallery where there's doors on either side. The idea would be this is where tickets would be collected and or sold, where people could sign up for classes, and there would be space for a rotating artist on a monthly basis to display his or her wares. Give preference, of course, given to people from Fraser, and we have dozens of them who live in Fraser and surrounds. The other thing that's sort of neat is this entry area that's outside. We would be building some solar awnings and things of that nature, so that this garage door that's here, on a nice summer evening, there could be musicians outside, or there could be a reception, even drinks and stuff being sold as an intermission in a performance. So that is the general idea. Let me just pause and see first from my team if there's anything I left out, and then any questions about the design. And we'll talk a little bit about what it might cost, and then put some questions in front. Did I forget anything?
How about, can we hear from the rec district to talk about their needs and define the needs that you have? The programs that, a brief cliff notes on what you're doing now and your issues with capacity and storage and stuff. And if you think you can partner in the funding of making this all happen, what that role would be.
I don't know if I can answer the funding piece right now.
That's cool.
But yes, we have certainly outgrown the building. Currently, like this summer, for example, we have 19 specialty camps that are going to happen. And 10 of them happen out of the church. So we have currently outgrown the space between theater camps, science camp, Lego camp, art camps, creative art camps. Our pottery studio, we have wait lists on every class currently, and our creative camps. So from a programming perspective, this is a much needed space. And we would love to partner with it. Right now, we are partnering in terms of on our classes that we're offering, a percentage of that is going back to the PAC, a small percentage at this time. We did just invest $7,000 of capital money into new pottery wheels and kiln shelves to keep the programming going. The one thing from my perspective to renovate the church is that we could currently keep all of our program going as this renovation, this design, which is why we picked this design, is we could keep all of our programming going through the construction process. I've answered. Any other questions?
And let's say in an ideal world, we have both facilities, this one and eventually the art center. Do you think the need will grow enough to need all the space, or?
Personally, I think that I think the church, if this renovation would accommodate probably the next 10 to 15 years. But you know, if the community keeps growing the way the community is growing, then eventually I could see that turning into a children's art space. But I, in my opinion, it would probably be 15 years down the line.
Yeah.
But that's my personal opinion. So, anyone else?
So you don't pay rent on the rooms as such?
We have partnerships, so we maintain the property out front. Our parks facilities maintain that and help maintain the church. So it's more of like partnerships and trades per se than economic benefits. Like we split the internet, we work together, we work out who's going to clean it. So it's always been more of a partnership and maintaining the facility. It's really honestly not a huge moneymaker for us or you, but it's definitely a community asset.
Okay, anybody else for Michelle?
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. The only other thing that I wanted to mention, well, two other things about the building. One, we sort of anticipated your question, and that one of the reasons why this side of the building is designed in these cubes with those, with a common area in the middle and those garage doors is so that as time passes, if there are other uses for the facility, it's very flexible. And it could accommodate a variety of things. Could be a senior center. I doubt if it could be an elementary school, but it could actually be an extension of the elementary school. So we were thinking a little bit of that in the back of our mind. Daycare is exactly right. It could be a very important point. In fact, Dan Orecchio, who is from DA Architecture, just walked in the room. The other thing that I wanted to share is parking, which, you know, knock on wood, fire and ice this weekend. We are expecting a pretty good crowd, and hopefully we won't be overwhelmed by parking. In this case, there are certain requirements. I won't bore you with all those details, but the idea would be that the building would be restored or improved, and we would do it in such a way that we would preserve the area over here that's currently a parking area up until the last minute, enabling the back area to become a parking area once the building is established. So long-term plan would be parking would be behind, not on the side of the historic church. And one of the ways we're able to get the appropriate number of spaces is there's enough adjacent parking, not including the street right in front, but also including this building and the park area, that those can be used if we were to have, say, several hundred people for an event. So that is a little bit about the church. What do these things cost? The plan that you see in front of you from 2018 to build the Fraser Center across the street in the Mural Park, the estimates at that time were in the high single-digit millions. I think it's safe to say we're probably now looking at 12 to 15 million bucks to build something like that, given the inflation that's happened in the style that you see in those renderings. Now, I'll be the first to say that we can make all kinds of accommodations. These are conceptual renderings. If we chose to build a more modest building over there, we could. The one thing that that plan has that the church restoration does not is that plan has a whole second floor of affordable housing for artists. I think it's 7 or 8 units, relatively modest, but important in the context of some of the things that are relevant in our community. Conversely, the church, the estimate that we got from Dan and DAO is with a 5-year escalation, meaning if it takes us 5 years to raise the money, it would cost about $6 million to do what I just showed you. Okay, so about half the cost. Doesn't get quite as many benefits. It's not as snazzy in terms of a brand new building. The upside is it is anchored in the middle of our community and it's surrounded by a neighborhood. And so the team, one of the questions I asked all of them when we got done with this is, you've been working on this, you've seen those plans quite a bit for the Mural Park version. What is your recommendation to the board? And our team was unanimous, represented by these folks, along with about half a dozen others, was unanimous in thinking that the appropriate first step from our point of view, in terms of the people who are going to be raising the money, would be to go after the church restoration, engage the community on that plan, take their counsel, see if there's enough support. And if so, we'll roll up our sleeves and we'll go raise the money. And then when we get that up and operating, we'll start worrying about whether or not we go after the original plan. Conversely, you may say, you know what, we would love to see that Fraser Center on the Mural Park site as quickly as possible. Let's skip the church. And that's what we're here to find out tonight. So our consensus was strong to go towards the church first, but that's simply a recommendation. You're the elected officials and would like to hear your thoughts on which direction we should go. So let me pause there and see if you have any questions.
Did you say the $6 million was for the church or for the other?
For the church.
Okay.
Yeah,
how much?
the other one's about, it's going to be double or more.
Okay.
Now, again, I should qualify that. That's if we were to do it as rendered.
Right.
We could always revisit that.
No, I mean, I think it's important. If it's an art complex, it should be designed as such. It should look good. So, I mean, my initial thought is you go for the church first and we bite off a small chunk, and then maybe that will motivate more people to fundraise for the new building as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Other voices?
There's no housing in the church.
There is in these plans, there would be no additional housing, correct? We'd have to probably build a second story there, and that was something we just simply chose to do because then, frankly, once you start doing that, the cost is approaching the other one.
Yeah, I'd say go for the one across the highway, skip the church. You could do half the project over there for the same $6 million.
And in that scenario, Parnell, would you be comfortable if we had to do it in phases?
Yep.
Because I think that's probably realistic.
Right. And then we're not trying to fix up the old church. Right?
Yep.
We're not putting a major business or more traffic on Eisenhower,
Mm-hmm.
which is a big issue.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we have two perspectives, one towards the church, one towards the Mural Park site.
So the church does need upgrading, you know, with the direct district using it, the seniors using it. As you say, the bathrooms are substandard. There's nothing that's ADA compliant. So I feel like that if you could do it in a section, you know, in stages and get those, probably, I would imagine there would be those initial grant dollars that could be available also that the town could help support for doing those ADA upgrades in the old church and getting, you know, and getting the sanctuary turned around. Might take some measure feng shui so that we.
Yeah, I'm
I was
not
looking
good
at it, I
with
thought,
the,
but I'm looking at the back of the wall. I'm not looking at.
right.
But I know you guys can do that.
Mhm.
So that's my thought. I think that the church is it's an asset that the town owns. And it really needs some attention on the inside. So, you know, we start with that and the rec district, we need housing. We've got a few things on the fire that the town's looking at and in Old Town. My question about the one off the highway, our big public arts facility, where's the parking for the residential?
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a challenge. In fact,
There really isn't
there
any.
is relatively little parking over there. Yeah. For
So-
either the current residents or as we see during the mural festival, if we were to have a performing arts center there, you know, if you had a couple hundred people there in the evening, I think parking would have to be accommodated and added to the plan. Please, Dan, you want to? This is Dan Orecchio from DAO.
I just wanted to speak a little bit to the parking for the Center for Creative Arts on the mural lot. That's in the Riverwalk district. And so the zoning for that area encourages for that to be a more walkable, vibrant downtown area. And so it allows for parking within 500 feet, you know, of the facility.
Okay.
And then the other idea is that along Dock Suzie, there'd be some parking. And we were able to get a few parking spaces, you know, on the site.
Mhm.
And so there was also this idea of, you know, the potential of sharing with the neighbor. But at the end of the day, when we designed that, and it was just a concept design, but we had to meet the requirements of zoning. And so the parking is facilitated and does comply with zoning. But at glance, you think, where are people parking? So I think your question's a good one,
Yeah.
but I did want to just make sure that people understood when we did design that, we had to comply with zoning. We can't create a design that doesn't meet the requirements of the town.
So would there be enough spaces for each tenant to have one parking place close by?
The idea was that the parking for tenants would happen along Dock Suzie,
Okay.
you know, street parking. There has to be ADA, you know, essentially on site, and then others would be within that 500 feet that the zoning in that district does allow. Does that make sense?
Okay, anybody
you.
else? Wanna chime in? Thank you. Kate?
I think it's a hard decision, but I'm thinking about Parnell's thinking just go for the big one, and it'll be it'll just change the identity of the town, the downtown area, you know, and just make a huge impact on what the town's known for. And I just think it would be great to have that, the on the Riverwalk, the whole Riverwalk would be
Mhm.
awesome.
Certainly would be an anchor.
It'd be the highlight.
Yep. Other perspectives?
If I can just go back to mine, I kind of feel, you know, much like a goldfish grows to the size of its tank. You know, if we have more space to do more rec district stuff, we will use it. It will be taken advantage of. So that's kind of why I'm thinking church first and another building second.
How about
I
you
mean, the
folks?
conversation goes housing, but we have to have quality of life too.
Yep.
You know, and rec district is speaking to this, that these programs and that they're already getting overgrown and are outgrown and the spaces that we have. And the church, I had a daycare in there at one time, so it's funny to hear about a daycare in there again, but those kids one of those kids is a grandfather now, so it has been a little while ago. But in any case, the church needs attention, needs help. And it's an important community anchor. And I agree, Parnell, that, you know, it's in a residential area, but it's also a vibrant area over there. And I'm wondering, have you heard much from the neighbors? Have we heard much?
So
from neighbors over
we
there?
have heard only through anecdotal circumstances. For example, when we did the plein air reception on Saturday last fall, we had hundreds of people come through there, and a number of residents of Fraser gave us their thoughts on that, mostly supportive of that. But I would be the first to say, and it's why we wanted to have this conversation first, is we have not formally gone to the community and said, what do you think of, you know, a refurbished center in your backyard? Because we didn't want to do that until we had taken your counsel. And if this group says, yeah, we're interested in that, then that'd be one of our first steps.
And the other conversation we're having here is about Fraser for the next 15 to 20 years, realistically.
Right.
And Breckenridge, they've dealt with this in the way that you have to pay a lot of money to park in town. You can park for free in the parking ramps that they built around the community and ride a nice bus into town. But if you want to drive into town as an employee or anybody else, and they're programmable parking meters, so
Yep.
seasonally they change. They change daily, but we, having a center like this in the middle of town, hopefully a lot of people are going to walk there. And I certainly will. I mean, and as long as we're able, but I don't know. It's a tough one. And I have to agree that it would be nice to just jump right in and go for the 12 million and try and build the showboat. But I think realistically, it's going to take something like the church to launch this and to really, really get that going. Plus, again, we need the attention paid to that building, because that building is a real community asset. And I do think we need to go back to the Fraser Church of what's happening now. But
Well,
the formal moniker, but
one of the jokes that we were telling as we were doing this work is that if we were to do the church, we were going to have a little, concession stand where beer and wine and that sort of thing would be sold. We're going to call it the confessional in honor of the Church of what's happening now.
So I think in the visionary sense, and I think in a realistic sense, that the church ought to happen first and ought to be the
Okay.
anchor for the ongoing effort to build this centerpiece that we want downtown. And I agree, I want nothing more than to see this Riverwalk district take off. But we also have to remember, we have another piece of ground down there, the town does. The town owns a piece of ground outside of where the art center is, right?
Yep.
And that could be something that we partner with the developer and look at the mixed commercial residential type use that we want in Riverwalk and put it on that site. And really get the Riverwalk district going with a model for how the rest of that district can go. So those are my thoughts.
Great. Thank you, Trustee Miller. Trustee Waldro, Mayor, do you have a point of view?
Eileen, do you have?
It's really tough. I mean, I wish we could win the lottery.
Well, the last thing I want to talk about when we're done with this is how we're going to go get money, but go ahead.
Eileen, your microphone's not on.
Oh, thank you. I think start with the church.
Okay, so I've heard 3 voices in favor of the church and I think 3 in favor of the center. Not that this is a vote, but
I think that if you guys start with the church, you're killing the art center. I don't think that, I think that if you start there 10, 15 years, things will change. The passion for having the art center in the downtown community will get lost. You guys, I would imagine, will have all moved on. This wonderful idea will be put on a shelf and forgot about forever.
Mhm.
And it was supposed to be, when you're driving down the highway,
Yeah.
It was supposed to
A
be
landmark.
an old, what is that?
Yep.
I've got to pull over and stop to find out what it is. So, and I think if you're going to raise 6 million, why not 12 million? I mean, they're both large numbers.
Yep.
This one has housing. The church doesn't have any
Yep.
housing. And having 7 more housing units wrapped up in that 12 million makes a lot of sense to me.
it does. It
Because
also
you're-
opens doors to some funding for affordable housing.
Yeah, so, I think that the church is, I mean, to spend $6 million redoing that church, I know construction is expensive, is
Yep.
up there, but I mean, yeah, I 100% would go for the downtown Fraser Arts Center.
Okay.
Because, I mean, that's what we were supposed to be doing for the past, since 2018, was raising money for that. And so, yeah, and I feel strongly about that. So.
All right, so I'm
And
hearing
this
a
is right
slight,
down- This is, the other one, the church is downtown, and I think that you're gonna have a lot of pushback from the neighbors when we kick this out to the neighbors and say, hey, we want to put the performing arts center right here and play music outside your door. And I think you're gonna get pushback from the community and the parking situation over here. So.
Cool.
And this was supposed to be an economic driver for our our
We what?
community.
On economic driver, yes.
And that was part of it as well, is that, Fraser took the lead on the arts in Grand County and we created a lot of things. We've been copied of, other towns in our community for the lead that we've taken. And let's not be the leaders. Let's continue to be the leaders and push for something that our community is going to really enjoy for not just for 10 or 15 years, but you're talking about a legacy building that becomes part of the community.
Cool.
If I could,
Please.
I appreciate your presentation. I appreciate the historic nature of that church and the attractive economic driver of that art center downtown. Just as a reminder to the board and to those here, we actually have money in our budget to do some minor upgrades to the church, the bathrooms and the kitchen and so forth, to get those a little bit more compliant and better shape. But also when we talk about our downtown, we've got a lot of interest in our downtown right now. We just made an offer on 11.3 acres. We have over 100 affordable housing units that's in the plan that would go into that area. We are in discussions with the developers of the One Love property. There's more affordable housing units coming into that area as well. We have a concentration in the downtown, and we're going to get a higher concentration of people in our downtown. And those people are going to need places to shop. They can just walking distance to Safeway, to the stores, to the bars, the restaurants, and so forth. And that's going to drive more economic development and more commercial development in our downtown to create more of a tourist draw, in my opinion. I personally like the idea of the art center. I think that show is a showpiece. It is really going to be in the heart of where this high density, the Riverwalk, Victoria Village, all of our commercial districts. I think it has a tremendous economic advantage there. And I don't like to spend a lot of money.
Who does?
So I would hate to see you fundraise to bring $6 to $8 million to do one, then turn around and do 13 to 14 million dollars on another one, when you can just probably do something else with the art center as well. Whatever the board decides, that'd be fine with me. But I do think that there's opportunities. I think DOLA has something called the creative districts, and there's other designations that you might can pursue to help offset some of those costs. Even some of the basic planning grants in phase 1 and phase 2 can bring $1 million or so toward construction, which would make a serious dent into what you're trying to do with that art center.
Yeah, actually, if I could, since you brought it up, our plan is, pending the guidance we got here tonight, we're going to launch a capital campaign that will first focus on local municipalities, Fraser, Winter Park, the Rec District, et cetera, local organizations, and moneyed individuals in our community. And I've learned that you need to have some committed funds from key stakeholders, both individuals and institutions in the community, before the major foundations and grant organizations will take you seriously. So that'll be our first step. I'll be coming to you to help us set up some meetings with some of those people. And then once we have some of that in our kit bag, Diane Butler has been working with me because she has done a ton of work on fundraising for the Grand Lake Center and other types of facilities here, and has a reservoir of knowledge on where we can go after those institutional funds, which we do think are ample. And because the center would have affordable housing in it, that opens up an avenue. The one negative is the church was a historic building, and that allowed us to go after historic funds, but be that as it may. And then lastly, we have already started to investigate sources like low interest or no interest bonds, things of that nature that could be employed as a placeholder until the funds are raised and then immediately paid off. So we'll be investigating all of those things, but being very active at it in the new year. Diane, you want to just take a minute before we wrap up and talk a little bit about some of the fundraising, because I think it's important for the group to hear.
Yeah.
thanks, everybody. It's exciting what you're up to and what can happen. And I think Steve really hit on the main thing is you have to sort of have those starting funds to be able to go and capitalize on some of the opportunities that we're seeing that are out there right now. You know, I know probably Ed's familiar with the USDA, the community facility direct loan, which, you know, is really a good option. I called them today and it's 40 years of a loan at 2.125%.
Wow.
So really you could start making this happen pretty quickly and then still pay that loan back, you know, as fast as you get other funding. So, so that to me seems like the easy pathway is if you're willing to take that investment, especially since you have the land, get the 40 years at that low percentage. And then if you pay it off in 5-10 years, when we've raised additional funds, it really allows you to tap into some of the other state funding that's available that really you need to show that huge commitment of how you're going to raise the rest of the money. So this, you would show that you've got that money in place. So there's things with the community revitalization grant. That's the one I've been working on with Grand Lake. They are a space to create, so they're already kind of in line for that. But I think if the funds remain there, we just haven't been able to use it here because again, you have to show that significant pathway to the full project of where the other funds are coming from. I'm hearing there's other federal grants that are coming down that could be used for maybe not the structure, but for a lot of the equipment and the internal stuff that would be necessary. So happy to help in any way I can and to keep looking at resources. So just wanted to let you know that, you know, I mean, I presented the community facility funds years ago to the Grand Lake Center. And I think that's just a really easy way for a town to start getting money at such a long, you know, 40 years at just over 2% is a pretty good investment.
And it's municipalities that have to apply for that.
And nonprofits,
Okay.
both. And we can check more into it. You know, I just did the initial thing, but if you're interested, we can dig deeper and I can meet with Ed and the team and figure out how we can pursue that. Any other questions?
Thanks, Jane.
Yep, thanks.
Great. We don't want to take up any more of our time, of your time than we have. I just want to recap what I'm hearing is a very slight, but indeed a preference to go after the mural park, the original vision. We've completed the swing and did the homework, but that's fine. So we will take that on. We will look into a variety of ways to stage it. And I will be coming back to you probably through the manager and the mayor with some active plans for fundraising. So with that, I want to just remind you that this group and Fraser Valley Arts, the 501c3, are all volunteers. We are committed to doing this on behalf of the community, but it will only get done if we have your visible support and your financial support. And if you, in terms of the town, aren't committed on both of those dimensions, it's going to be almost impossible for us to pull this off. If you are, I'm pretty committed. I'm pretty optimistic. So with that, we thank you for your time.
Thanks, Steve.
Cheers.
And thank you all. I'm gonna give you all a hand for all your work. Thank you very
Can't
much.
wait to driving down the highway and looking at
What is that?
Have you ever been up to Jackson Hole?
Thank you.
No. They have an
Thank you,
art
thank you.
center there with this super cool light display on the outside. It's exactly what you're talking about. Just it makes you stop the car.
Yeah, when I was doing this with Dan, I was like, you know, you want to drive down like that and have that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, it's that would be it.
Okay,
Can I leave these here?
thanks, we
All
appreciate
right,
it.
yeah, thank you so much for all of your work.
It's only twice as much money.
10 million extra. It's like, you know, do you buy, like,
Do what I grabbed.
It's like a car with a bed.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Good luck with it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thanks, everybody. We lost.
Boy, yes.
Okay, we are now at for the Mill Avenue surety reduction.
Right. All
Russell?
right, is everybody, yep. All right, hey, good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. I'm Russell Pennington, Public Works Director, Town of Fraser. Sorry. In front of you tonight is a surety reduction for the Mill Avenue apartment project. Currently the town holds holds $500,000 in surety for this project. Construction has occurred, water lines and sewer lines have been installed, and as you can see, the buildings have been made some great progress as well. The developer has submitted the attached, it was in your board packet, the attached surety reduction request. And staff has reviewed the surety reduction request, and we disagree with the request. And so those numbers are in in the report there. First, it's important to understand that the purpose of collecting and holding surety is to ensure that the public improvements can be properly completed should the developer fail to construct them. So the surety should be an amount that if the town had to pull that money and do that project, we would have enough money to do it. The project is outside of the town limits. And with this project, the town is only reviewing and inspecting the water and wastewater infrastructure, along with a small portion of the asphalt replacement on Elk Creek Drive and Mill Avenue. So in regard to the streets, if you could, Michael, pull up those if you could. In regards to the streets, staff is not recommending any of the street improvement dollars be released due to the repairs not being constructed per the plan, or they were not being able to be inspected prior to the snowfall this snow season. On the screen here, you can see staff has inspected the asphalt patch on the Elk Creek Drive. The asphalt repair does not match the plan, which requires a full width replacement, which is circled. That shaded area is the removal and replacement called for the construction plans. And that was not. And if you kind of scroll down a little bit more, there are some actual photos of, you can see on the left of the patch of the trench. There are some damage to the existing asphalt that was left there in the center, as well as there are some valves to that right picture over there, that there is some actual cracking of the asphalt there. There's also some areas there that the plans also do not call for being paved, and it was supposed to be gravel, and it is paved there. So in regards to the Mill Avenue, if you can scroll down a little bit more, there's another photo. That is the construction plans. That is what's required there. As you can see, symmetrical cuts, full width. If you go down a little bit more, and we actually have one of the pictures of this patch here. As you can see, the paving is done in a couple of different patches. It doesn't match the construction plans as well. And it actually, you can see, it looks like there's some additional damage during the construction of this patch here. The other two patches on the Mill Avenue were not inspected by town staff, as they were paved just before snow started this December, or I think late November, early December. All right, well, in regards to the water lines and fire hydrants and valves have all been installed and tested. What is left to be completed is what we're calling the surface improvements here. This would be ensuring valve boxes are straight and installed correctly when the asphalt is actually, the surface improvements are brought in. Valve extensions are per code, fire hydrants are the correct elevation, tracer wire test stations are installed. Tracer wire test is, the trace wire is tested. Staff chose to withhold 10% of the water amount in order to cover this work. And we anticipate this 10% being returned upon preliminary acceptance once requested and provided. In regards to the sanitary sewer, this is quite a bit of the infrastructure has been installed. There's manholes installed, there's sewer lines installed. What is the concerning is the lack of the bore under the railroad. There's a plan for a 24-inch board casing under the railroad that has not been installed yet. And then also in the last couple of weeks, we have had a request from the developer and it's been approved by the railroad to increase that from a 24-inch steel case bore to a 36-inch, which equates to a much more expensive bore than originally planned for. And along with that, we're estimating approximately about 200 linear feet of sewer line that's not completed as well through the railroad. After internal discussions and enlisting the expertise of Merrick Engineering, that's our engineering company, helps us with our development reviews and capital projects, we decided that an equitable amount for the surety to be withheld for this work that has not been completed yet is roughly in a range of about $1,500 a linear foot for the 36-inch bore, and about $100 a foot for the 10-inch sewer that totals about $200,000. So that's the majority of the surety that we're recommending keeping intact here. So as discussed above with water, we understand that quite a bit of infrastructure has been in place and been tested. And then the same thing with that, we withheld 10% for the surface improvements. That would include ensuring manholes are the proper grade once the surface improvements are done, the paving, et cetera. The asphalt was placed, riser rings, manhole steps are installed, et cetera. So in summary, the town is recommending, town staff is recommending that the town continue to hold $339,205.06 in surety for this project, which corresponds with a recommended release of $160,794.94 from the current $500,000 surety. So I'd be glad to ask any questions if the board has, and the developer is here to also discuss this project as well.
Any questions for Russell before we let Clark come up?
So do we know the cost for a 36-inch bore? I was confused about the 1,700 per foot for
Well,
30 and then
yes.
then it dropped for a bigger
Yeah,
bore.
our consultant has a recent project in north of Denver that has a 30-inch bore, and the average price for that bore came in at around $1,700 a foot. So that was average because they did get multiple bores there. So their recommendation actually were to kind of start looking at probably adding 30% and what have you. But once we started getting into the complexity of the project and trying to compare the two projects as far as complexities, we thought that $1,500 would be a good representative to protect the town, that if the town had to pull the surety to hire a contractor to do that bore.
Okay, any other questions, comments for Russell? No? Clark, do you want to? Board?
Is it appropriate for me to ask Clark any questions about
Yeah,
that?
I don't know if he'll answer.
Mr. Lipscomb, I'm wondering, so adjacent to Mill Avenue, there's the ditch that the waters traditionally run through. There was a berm between Mill and the ditch that has been compromised. It's pretty much flat now. And that ditch, continued parallel on up to the Parkway Road, but there at Norgren, there's no culvert. So what's going to happen with the water that has historically flowed through that ditch and then ended up down in that corner of the property? And how are you going to be able to keep it off a mill, or throw some more dirt on that berm to keep it out of the hood?
Do you have any other questions?
I think that's it.
Okay. This is for the 60-unit mill apartment deed restricted affordable housing project that myself and Cornerstone are constructing for the community. As you guys know, the designs are complete. The town has the designs. That swale that historically has been a problem for Mill Avenue, Katie, when we're finished, that swale has been extensively expanded and is getting bigger. That work will happen next year in the spring when the surface of the parking and roads for the apartment are installed. And this year it got, to the weather wasn't there to cooperate.
Oh, you guys were working
Um,
hard over there.
Yeah, the road in off of Norgren has always been there. That's my access to our pasture. And there's a large RCP pipe sitting there right now.
Okay,
That is part of the storm drainage. You can see it. It's sitting there on site.
okay, so it's gonna go in.
Yep. And in
Good.
fact, all of the stuff was surveyed for construction around about the end of October. However, the surveying was wrong. And I went out there and walked it and knew it wasn't correct.
Okay,
And sure enough, the surveyor's calculations, in fact, used the wrong datum or something. So long story short, they've recalced it and it'll have to be restaked. And that earthwork will happen sometime this next spring.
okay,
Yeah, the detention pond
Good.
facility for the project is 95% complete,
awesome.
topsoiled, graded. And there's a big storm. It's not big, actually. There's a swell facility to the southwest of the project that also is staked for the served by the surveyor that was wrong. So that was, all that stuff will have to happen next spring. But I expect it'll flow just like it normally has
Okay.
down mill. That's always been, as you said,
Or parallel to mill or
a
just
little bit of an
downhill?
issue. The road was kind of cut down. Our field's probably 2 feet taller than, or higher than Mill Avenue is. So
Right.
whenever that was constructed, obviously they cut that down pretty significantly. And there was a request, I believe, by the town that we addressed, that we try to address it. We didn't need to for our storm drainage for the project. But while we're there building all this, there was a request, I think from Tim Gagnon, that we look at expanding that swell, which is what's in the civil engineering plans for the project. So the berm next to mill stays. There's the earthen berm still. I just walked it in October. The earthen berm that's there, to the extent it is there, stays. And the flow line of that actually stays the same as well. It gets cut in where we remove, how we removed a big chunk of our fence. I know you're at the project quite a lot. That's where the swale gets expanded over where that fence was. So the swell is going to get much wider. Okay, but the depth of the swell stays the same. So anyway, hopefully that answers your question.
Good.
And
I know people
I
that
think the
live
civil
along there
engineers
just
probably
don't
did a pretty good job on that. It looks pretty good.
Okay, thanks. Clark.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? So, motion,
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-0202 mill apartment surety reduction.
I'll second it.
Just a clarification, you're
we're releasing the 100, you're as is, you're releasing the 160.
So the
That's for the recommendation. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Well, I have some discussion about it. Is all the time that Clark's built in this valley, is there any project that he hasn't finished? Is there any project?
Sorry.
You can argue the yellow buildings, that's a whole different
I
issue.
know, just, I'm sorry. just
But
I
it's
know.
in the
Is there any
back.
projects that he hasn't finished? Is there any roads he hasn't fixed? Is there anything they haven't done? You guys want to make nice, you want to be friends, you want to have a better relationship with the biggest developer in town, and he's asking you for a minor surety reduction, and we're arguing him about it. What? Russell is, he's saying he's way off based on his numbers. That's an argument.
Okay, anybody want to? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Was everybody on this side and I?
Yeah. You want a roll call or
Let's do a roll call.
Katie Fisher, aye.
Andy Miller, aye?
Eileen Waldo, nay, I'm not comfortable with the bigger bore amount.
Circovec, aye.
Ardell Quinn, nay.
Souls, aye.
Vandernail, aye. So reduced by 160,000. Okay. Next is Cousins Ranch restrooms.
There's Catherine. Is she coming in?
Oh,
Oh, there.
Yeah, hi, good evening. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Good.
Hey, Michael, are you able to put up the renderings that I had emailed to you, please? Thank you. So we're looking for a little bit of direction tonight. For those of you that have been around for a little while, you may remember that back in November 2019, we received some funding from the Department of Local Affairs in the amount of $299,000, with a match of the same amount from the town. And this was to move forward with some of the recommendations in the Fraser River Corridor Master Plan and construct a year-round plumbed, state-of-the-art, prefabricated public restroom facility to be centrally located in Cousins Ranch open space adjacent to the Lions Ponds. And unfortunately, due to COVID and the East Troublesome Fire, the staff has not been successful in moving this project forward. We did put this out to bid last year. Sorry, those pictures are a little bit blurry. We did put this out to bid last year as it relates to the extension of the infrastructure, and we did not receive any local bids. Again, partially due to COVID and East Troublesome Fire. So we are sending out an RFP, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, for the extension of the infrastructure. And we did receive 2 bids from 2 different companies for this prefabricated restroom facility. So the rendering on the top is from a company called Green Plush Restrooms. And that dollar amount for the restroom facility was $223,709,000. And there are details in the briefing as it relates to what's going to be a part of that. It is a 345 square foot restroom facility. The other company we got a bid from recently was a group called Public Restroom Company. And that was for a little bit smaller facility, 228 square feet. And again, I don't know if you want me to go through all the details of all the finishes and stuff, but that stuff was in the packet for you. But we really want to make something happen this year. We did get an extension from DOLA until December 31st of 22. So the upper one has, you can see the floor plan is in the packet. That will have 3 different stalls, 3 different cabins, if you will, with a total of 5 toilets. And then the public restroom one will have 3 different cabins with 3 different toilets in each of them. So staff is recommending to move forward with the top version. We think that will be a nice addition to the Cousins Ranch open space. Do you guys have any questions?
Is that the Fraser skyline in the background?
Yeah,
That's
it is.
That's the art. Oh, it's, yeah, I thought it's not the art. It's not the art.
Yeah.
So I've got a few questions, Catherine. I like the upper one better too. Those awning roofs are kind of a nice design feature, but they're going to drip and cause ice in front of those doors, I'm afraid. I would assume this building's probably going to face south, I think, with that entry wall being, hopefully we can orient that to the south.
Yeah.
Or sun. So they're nice design wise, but I think they're going to be kind of a, do you see what I mean? They come off and they drip off that front, and the roof itself is shedding off the right direction. So I wonder maybe a little bit deeper eave up there or something might help that design a bit, but those awning roofs, I think, are just going to be kind of an issue. The hardy plank siding, the cement-based siding that they call for, it's really not been working out well in the long term. It has an ash filler that over 10 years later, the stuff that I've put up, at least, especially things that are like that center bay that's in contact with the snow, it does break down fairly quickly. So I think the metal siding, I know the metal siding will hold up really well, and I wonder if we might just go to all metal siding, or maybe just more accents from the hardy plank and keep it up higher away from the snow. And then it calls for an R38 roof. I think we'll need an R50 to meet code. That's one reason I like the upper building better, because that lower building, from what I can tell from the structurals, is just a cement block building. It doesn't really call for insulation in the walls. So I think the insulation package in the upper building is better. And we of course have to heat this. It'll be fairly expensive to heat all year. So, and want to be fairly efficient with it. So anyway, that's my thoughts.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. One other thing, the upper building has porcelain fixtures. The lower building has stainless steel. I wonder if we might ask if we could get a change to the stainless steel. I think that would hold up better. I know porcelain can be vandalized fairly easily, and unfortunately people have broken those things in the past. So the stainless steel, I think, might hold up better over the long term.
Does anyone else have any thoughts on the porcelain versus the stainless steel?
How will the building be heated?
Electric.
Okay,
Cove heaters is what they both call for. So
okay, good. So long as the stainless steel is heated.
well, they have,
I had visions of, we got metal walls
well,
and we'll have stainless steel
Stainless steel still has a regular toilet seat.
toilets.
It's
Yeah,
just the
some do,
bowl.
some don't.
The bowl.
Yeah,
well,
some don't.
well, we can put a regular toilet seat on it. It's
Yeah.
the porcelain bowl that gets broken.
Yeah,
I'm
gotcha.
afraid. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would definitely go with the stainless over the.
Yeah, but with regular seats, you're right, Katie. We don't want anybody freezing to the seats.
Right.
Okay, any other comments?
Well, if I understand, the upper one has 5 toilets total and the
3.
bottom has 9?
No, the top one has 3 different rooms, cabins, they call them. And the men's will have a urinal and a toilet, and the women's will have 2 toilets. And then the family room in the middle will have 1 toilet.
So that's
So kind of a total of 5 holes, if you will. And then the bottom one just has 3.
The upper one is a bigger building, so
Oh,
it doesn't look like it. But
No.
it's,
The upper one looks much better than.
The upper one is 345 square feet and the lower one is 228 square feet.
oh, I don't think it's
Okay,
what
it
they
just
actually
looks-
did. It's just
looks fine.
a picture.
Okay, upper is what the
Yeah,
consent is.
the
Yeah.
lower one
Yeah.
doesn't fit in with the style of Fraser, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I like the
Which
modern
one?
first one too.
The lower one looks like it could be anywhere USA.
Yeah.
The top one, I think, says more mountain Fraser. It just fits it fits better.
Upper, is that enough? Do you want to? What else?
I think so, unless there are any more comments from the board.
Yeah, just change the roof line, maybe even dormers or
There's a,
something for shed.
modular that's gone in up by my house that has those, that, I don't know what that thing is called, but I
Little
think
awning
all
roofs.
it's gonna just catch snow
Trip.
and grip.
or
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Catherine.
Thanks a bunch,
Okay.
Catherine.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, your time.
Thank you.
SB 16 discussion, Senate Bill 16, is that?
This is a bad
Want me to read
deal.
it?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So this is brought up by the Northwest TPR group. The long and the short of it is that there's a bill that is going to be brought up for vote that will adjust how the state of Colorado is defined for representation for Department of Transportation. They want to make it an elected board, and they want to move it from 11 territories essentially, like it is now, to 8. And basically, if you, I don't know if we have this, the fact sheet actually should show it
Yeah,
here.
that map is
The map is,
sobering.
yeah,
Yeah.
it points
Jeez.
out exactly why this is a terrible idea. District 3 basically takes over all of Western Colorado. We would end up in District 2, but we would be sharing that with Boulder County, Larimer County, and so
And
the
one
hot,
representative from each district.
right,
Yeah.
right. So basically, the high density areas are are the areas that are going to get the funds, get the representation. And I see all of the western slope losing out if this passes. So it points out a couple things. It says the western slope would lose 2 of its 3 seats. But even more than that, I mean, the map just shows exactly what we're going to be losing out on. There's just going to be no representation at all. So
Who is they?
And why, how do they validate this?
Who is proposing this?
So
Legislature.
the
This is a Senate bill that was introduced, Senate Bill 22-006 or 016. So the bill is really to reorganize how CDOT is organized. CDOT right now has commissioners that are appointed,
Right.
as Brian mentioned. This would make it elected position. It would shift most of the power to your urban centers, Denver, Fort Collins. And as you can see from that map on the right, Grand Junction would be in the same district as Colorado Springs and Pueblo. So the fear is that this would funnel money away from the western slope and put that all in the front range. Right now, the way the system is set up, it's equitable. There's a more even distribution. And again, with those appointed officers, you get better representation in the local area there. This measure came up because next week there's a Northwest Transportation Planning Region meeting. And they are wanting to propose a letter of opposition to this Senate bill. So I spoke to Brian about introducing this discussion to the board to get the board's feelings of whether or not to support a vote of opposition or whether or not you would be in favor of.
No.
Opposed.
Yeah, let's.
I think we should send her a letter. Opposing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you have the names of the senators who authored the bill?
I will get that out. There's already a letter that the TPR has drafted that came in today's email. In fact, Brian, you probably saw that too in preparation for our meeting next week. But I'll forward the information back to who's putting that out.
It does say Senator Scott at the very top. So I'm assuming he's the one he or she. But yeah, if I have all of your agreement, then I will say that the town of Fraser opposes this as well.
So this is already the huge struggle, is trying to come up with highway dollars for the western slope.
Right.
And this is just drive a final stake in the heart. So, yeah, it's a, plus an elected, how would you get the attention of the voters to vote for these obscure commissioners that have tremendous power and sway? But I mean, it's kind of a problem having the governor appoint them, but at least there's a little bit easier accountability there. So.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we don't need whatever electoral opinion is going on sway what highways get fixed.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Sure.
Yes.
No. No, we'll pass this on to the TPR and they'll do the letter, but we'll get the information from who's introducing this and also our local representatives. If you want to write your own letter as well, that'd be worthwhile.
Or we could just, how about you write pen one for the town of Fraser, because we're all in favor of that. And then
Okay.
I can sign it. Yeah. Thank you. Open forum. So let's start here in the building. Okay. Anybody online? Digitally raise your hand. Okay, any updates?
Next week, we have a JFOC meeting, and I've had it on my calendar, but I have a possible conflict, and I just wonder who else can go to that. I mean, who's able to go. so that we have a quorum. You'll be there? That's one.
Sorry, I'm just looking.
That meeting's on Thursday, the 10th. It starts at 1:30. I'm sorry, it starts at 3 o'clock.
I can go. I can be there.
Okay,
Okay, we have it covered.
Yeah.
Thank you.
okay. Any other updates? There's a second.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Everybody for?
You don't want to go up to your kids?
I don't want to put them to bed.
I got an hour and a half. Babysitter.
Come on.